Greetings from Strasbourg. This week MEPs returned for the final plenary session of 2019 under the shadow of fallout from last week's general election. The election was hard fought, but Labour was unable to persuade enough of the electorate that a Labour government, with its transformative manifesto for change, would be the best for our country. I'm particularly disappointed that the election saw us lose several hard-working Labour colleagues and friends in the West Midlands. What comes next is up to party members, but I'm calling on the Labour Party to take time out to reflect on why the election was lost and how the party rebuilds for the future. At the top of the returning Prime Minister's to-do list is, of course, Brexit. Emboldened by a decisive election week, Boris Johnson looks to be returning to his timetable at breakneck speed, minimising scrutiny of Brexit legislation and getting his withdrawal bill passed by January the 31st. At what expense? Provisions to ensure the protections for workers' rights and guarantees on the environmental standards look set to be ditched as Conservatives swing to the right. Provisions borne by Labour that would mitigate the worst impact of Brexit. It's up to remaining Labour parliamentarians and MEPs in the European Parliament to ensure that these guarantees aren't watered down, to stop a race to the bottom for standards in any future trade talks. The truth is that beneath the Get Brexit Done sloganeering, we're still on course for an unresolved exit from the European Union, this time next year. Amendments to prevent a no-deal Brexit have already been shelved by the government, and the economic cliff edge of a disastrous no-deal will loom throughout 2020. It is up to us to continue to argue that this would have terrible impact for business, jobs and the regional economy in the West Midlands. And whilst I remain a member of the European Parliament, I'll continue to work with colleagues to combat the worst excesses of right-wing Tory government and call out the untruths peddled by our Prime Minister over the next few weeks. Just this week, the European Parliament voted on a number of key issues on anti-tax fraud measures that will enable member states to chase the billions of euros that we all lose as a result of tax fraud online. Also, the Parliament voted in favour of a resolution that calls on the EU to be bold on digital tax reform so that we finally see the likes of Facebook, Amazon pay their fair share of tax in the European Union. These are just kind of policies that we need to be supporting, as tax fraud is a barrier to tackling key societal problems and social injustice. And I hope that the UK leaving the EU will not result in our commitment to this kind of legislation being watered down. It's been a tough week, but I can promise that I will continue to fight for the West Midlands up until the very last day. And I thank you for entrusting me to represent you in the European Parliament. Thank you. I hope you have a good Christmas and all the best for 2020.